Welcome to the July 18th SID meeting. I want to call it to order now, and at the very beginning, I've asked for a moment of silence with all the controversy that we've seen in the U.S., in Arkansas, and we're just glad that we're in Cherokee Village, and it's somewhat calm. Thank you all. First order of business that you've seen is we're going to introduce the attorney that's been supporting us, Mr. Grant Cox from Little Rock. Grant, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
He's the little guy over there on the screen. Gentlemen, ladies, we need to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded, and we'll sign after we finish this meeting. Thank you very much. Old business. Waterworks decision set and moved again, and I heard rumors that it could move even a further time. Is that correct, Betsy?
Right now, we are scheduled to do depositions on August 2nd and 3rd. The trial date that they're saying will be pushed to January of 23 and could be pushed further than that. But right now, there's going to be 3 depositions is what they've asked for. David Webb, myself, and they've asked what they call a corporate person to represent some of the documents back from 1988, from 2014, and so they were given a list of all previous commissioners and general managers, and they've reached out and they will determine who that third person will be. But I will go up on August 2nd and do my 5-minute deposition. So.
And you'll have our absolute support, and hopefully you'll come back home.
Yes, thank you.
With that, let's go ahead and go to your update, please, ma'am.
All right, so in our last meeting, someone from the golf committee, Mr. Keeler, had spoke about the water fountains on the course and our concerns about overheating. I just wanted to report back that the north course was already in operation. The south course, since our last meeting, has both of their water fountains back in place and operational. Since our last meeting on the front half, our halfway house on the front course here, we had a leak in that bathroom. I know we've talked about many times the carpet that is in the bathrooms at the majority of these facilities. We fixed the leak, we ripped the carpet out, we painted the floor, and we did some of the flake texture on it so it wouldn't be slick for golf shoes or anything like that. They've got it in the plans to do the back 9 here in the next 2 weeks, and then we will start on the south course. There was also a pretty bad leak on the back 9 halfway house, which has also been repaired. Our bathrooms, we had started at the base part. Now all of that has been done. My last project I have over there that I want to do is to have some doors built for the toilet stalls. Right now they have shower curtains that hang there, and it just doesn't really provide much privacy. It's not really that clean. I think just a slab door on the hinge will set the purpose and give that little bit of privacy. I actually had some people that have been staying down at the campground, and they called the day after George finished the floors to rant and rave about how great the bathrooms looked, and for the first time they were clean and someplace that they would want to use. One of the new things that we've been doing, and we've talked about many times in our meetings, is about not using or not utilizing the restaurant at the South Course. In the past 2 meetings, we've talked about the ABC license, which we are not going to renew or move forward with keeping that. But we still feel like that there's a need for something in that restaurant, and so what we're trying to do right now is work with Chow on the square in Cherokee. They are pre-packaging sandwiches for us. We have a little deli cooler that we've put them in. We're offering a little sandwich, bag of chips, and a soda combo that kind of goes in line with what their prices are in town. And this was our 4th week, and we sold out last Saturday to one group that came in from Pocahontas. So we're going to start promoting some pre-orders for those big groups that come in. And I think that maybe this will take off and improve some business for us. I know it's something small, but it's something more than what we've had to offer, and we've really gotten some positive feedback already, so I feel good about that. I know there were some concerns about things on our website. One of the things that we posted when you first pull the website page up on your home page, and now tells you how to purchase SID properties. It gives some step-by-step instructions. I know a lot of our property owners were interested in purchasing lots adjacent to their houses or in other areas. This would be the first point to go to look at. They're going to be extremely affordable, especially when you purchase them through the Tommy Land Commission. And so that would be something new that we've added to the website. I also tried to put in our meetings for the next few months, just more general information on the calendar. I know there was so much discussion about communication, but I don't have the sources to direct email every person. So between our social media website and our website, those are really my only 2 locations to really push information to. So I'm going to try to do a better job of loading it up with more information. Any suggestions we always appreciate. The inmates were here. I don't know if you saw them, but we have inmates that come 4 times a year from Calico Rock. It's the federal pen, so they are very strict. We have very little contact with them. Our first day we had 17 that showed. On our last day we had 21, so that number kind of changes. But they were able to clear the backside of Lake Thunderbird before the 4th of July, and then they came back on the 5th of July and were able to clean up all the trash that was left up at the marina and the parking lots across the street. And on their 4-day visit, they were able to finish the backside of Sequoia as well. We have 2 more visits scheduled for them this year. They usually come once in September and then once towards the end of October. So they'll get some more of the dams for us. And our only cost is that we have to feed them. So for less than $200 a day, we get the manual labor of what would take weeks for us to do and a whole lot more money to pay to do it. So it's a good thing. That's a good thing. I added this on here, underground gas tanks. So Arkansas requires that it has its rectifier and calcium readings and all of that stuff to transpire in August. Right now, Sid has 2 underground tanks left, the one at Base Heart, which we have not used since March. We did not refill it, and I would like to ask the commissioners to allow me to have it removed. It is a 3,000 gallon tank, and through the underground company, I believe it's called Scott's, that we've used in the past, they say it's about $1 a gallon to remove it. And that would mean that we would have no more annual fees on that. Even if we drain it, don't remove it, cap it off, even if we remove the tank, we would have to pay annual fees, we would still have to have testing done, so it would be ongoing expenses that right now what we were using that for was for park and rec, for mowers and all that stuff that we're not doing anymore. When the guys need to fill it with gas, they've been going to the south course or the north course and getting gas there. So it would
Those are
just,
our two tanks, right, north and south?
south is above ground, we don't have to do anything special on it.
Right.
North is below ground, we
Right.
still do a report on them, and we're right on time. Lynn knows exactly what to do to keep those going. It would just stop us from the expense of filling the tank and letting the gas sit in there that we're not gonna use over at Base Heart and having to pay. Every 3 years, you have to do the rectifier and the corrosion test. August is the third year we're due. So that would eliminate that having to be done.
I make a motion, we remove the gas tank, underground gas tank at Base Heart.
Second it.
Motion has been moved and seconded, and Bessie, please proceed to have that tank removed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Robert's Rules of Order. Robert came on and said, please vote. So let's do a individual vote, Mr. Nebel. Mr. Nebel, thank you.
I say aye.
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 Mr. Carter, Ms. Jett, thank
Aye.
you. And Mr. Chair, I say aye. So, thank you, Robert. I'm allowed to make one mistake, I made and apologize to you. And on that note, the person who's worked so hard on the South Golf Course, while we've had one of our pumps to water the course, is named Lynn, and Lynn has done a phenomenal job with his team at the direction of our general manager and some of the folks who are on the golf course committee. So just if you look out and you see some red looking spots, I call them potato chip spots, because we cannot water. Those guys have been hand watering and just perspiring, and just be proud of them for keeping us alive. The cost to replace our golf course here could exceed over $100,000, so they're doing us a great favor. So
That's Lynn at the north course.
that's the north course, I apologize. The south has other folks who are working well over there. Ralph is the superintendent, and if you don't play golf, he does a phenomenal job as well as Lynn on the north. So we're just real proud of that. On that note, I'm going to talk a little bit about the 4th of July, which is not on here. 4th of July, and actually the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, all of your commissioners were out going around Thunderbird, either on the lake or on the road, and we were watching different activities. On the 2nd, I counted 49 boats, and I think I counted some a couple times, but I'm not sure because they were actually moving. On the 3rd, I counted 50 and stopped. On the 4th, I counted 50 and stopped. And most of the people were following the guidelines that we have. We have a few people who are not property owners who did not understand the rules, but I believe our lake safety people were able to assist them and make sure that they understood that they needed to go in a counterclockwise direction and watch where they were driving, because they didn't want them too close to the buoys, which causes the wake on the shoreline, and it bounces boats for property owners, all kinds of things. But we just need to really be proud of the lake safety team on both Thunderbird and Omaha. And to that, Mr. Kaiser just told me that the Thunderbird, the Omaha Lake safety boat is back in commission, so you will start seeing a presence there as well. Any comment there, Mr. Kaiser?
We worked on that pontoon over there in Omaha, so a switch had gone out on the boat, and it took an ordeal to get it done, but I did, so it's fixed, and it's operational and running. We tuned the motor up, and everything's ready to go, so that boat's in good shape.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm real proud of Mr. Nebel, who didn't shoot anybody this time while he was out on his pontoon. I don't think he towed anybody, did you?
No, I talked probably 30, 40 people out there, and only had one person. He was from Illinois. He'd think he was above everybody. And he didn't have a stick. They could hear him, can't you? No, hear him.
I was out on Friday on my pontoon working with lake safety, and I talked to probably 30, 40 people that day. Everybody was good, they were having a good time. There was one person that he thought he was above everybody. He didn't have to have his vehicle, his boat registration on. I just made a comment to him, well, let's call Arkansas Game and Fish and see what they have to say. Well, I got one of them FUs and a finger and all in that, so I got his pontoon, I know where he's at. Anyway, there was a lot of boats out there, I can say that. And I'm surprised that we didn't have any accidents, because some people were following right behind other people with tubes and stuff, you know. It's like I said before, these lakes are just not big enough for what we have out there. But how we're gonna come about handling this, I've got an idea. I'm gonna talk to commissioners at executive session about it, and we'll let you know after that, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Nabel. Susan, did you have something to add? Because I know you were out there, we were out there in the middle of the day, in the middle of the morning, 24/7 just about.
And the only thing I really want to talk about is that I did have the opportunity to ride with Lake Safety for the parade. And it was so wonderful. It was truly an amazing situation where the marina just told everybody what number they were and everybody lined up in a cove. And I was with Miss Beth. And Miss Beth is new to the team, and Miss Beth is a sailor. And we rode in a ginormous circle, and we into little coves and we out of little coves. But most people were just thrilled and waving at us. I wish that we'd had beads or a similarity thing. I was thinking catfish food, we could be throwing catfish food. And the only complaint that I heard was that you didn't come down my cove and we depend on you to do that every year. Well, we were a few minutes late leaving, and the coves where we generally go down and make a big circle on your cove, people had blocked the entrance swimming and parking their boats, and so we weren't able to navigate the 13 boats safely. So even though we did our darndest, we're going to see if next year when we have the next parade, we can figure out how to get everybody happy. But it was wonderful. The people in the boats had a good time, and the float that won was tickled. So it was, all in all, it was wonderful. And like the guys are saying, we only had some people who were not happy and were outraged that we were trying to enforce the rules and regulations that are in the book. So all in all, it was a good weekend, and we didn't have that much issues, and we think after Memorial Day, people were getting kind of used to it. So we hope we did a better job for the 4th of July. So thank you, Mr. Page.
And that's why all your commissioners are out face to face with people, meeting people, making sure we understand your concerns, because we work for you. And that's the way it is. With that, I did talk to several individuals. I see them sitting in the room, and I won't mention their name. They talked about posting the rules for being on the lakes. Those are posted. They're small, they're not easy to see if you're not looking for them, and they're by the ramps. So those are available. We might want to think about making those larger and a big white and black, if you will, board. That was one thing that was suggested, as well as putting some more teeth in the ability of our police, and Mr. Neeble's working on that, and the folks at the Department of Natural Resources to help us with people who truly, politically correct now, do things wrong. And we have a few of those on occasion that don't really want to play the same way we ask them to play. With that, we also had a really good idea from one of our property owners to purchase an enhanced lake safety boat that could do 30 miles an hour with some kind of blue light or siren. And I really thank the individuals for that. I see them in here as well, and that would help us on Thunderbird during holiday weekends. But that's something Mr. Kaiser and I will be talking about, because a new boat set up like that could be pricey, to say the least. With that, that's it for our GM update, I believe, other than a shout out to Tim Lee and Tracy Lee, who have worked very hard to help us with the idea of how would you purchase a single piece of property versus 100 pieces of property like we may have had in the past. Comments, anyone? All right, let's go ahead and move to new business, and the first one that we have is the urban hunting on SID property. And I believe we had an individual who was supposed to present for that.
No, we didn't have an individual for that. The ham radio is who's going to be presenting. Basically what I did is just made a copy of what we've done in the past. With myself being new, with y'all being new, I wasn't really sure how that worked. If you look to the third page, it kind of tells you that's the form that we've had them come in and sign. My concern was that it says I'm giving them permission to hunt on city-owned property, but they're not giving me specific property they want to hunt on. So before I would sign something, I'm kind of like, you need to tell me a parcel, or where is it located, or I need to verify, is it really my property? Now, I talked to someone from the city today who said, that's not really my concern. What my concern would be is that we get them to sign this in case there was anything to happen, and that the agreement that they enter into with the Arkansas Game and Fish covers all liabilities that we would have if something happened on our property. And let's say we gave someone permission to hunt on this side of the road, and they ended up hunting on this side of the road, and they had an incident, we would not be held responsible. It is their responsibility to ensure they're on the proper property. So I feel better about it, but I just didn't know your knowledge of it or what y'all thought.
And for the property owners in the room, there is a note that talks about it. It says, urban hunting can start the last Saturday in September, the first Saturday in September, and closes January 31. And I was a bow hunter at the time, so there's some specific rules. If you're a bow hunter, if you're a rifle hunter, there's some additional rules that you have to go through, and you have to have permits. So please be aware, if you're going to hunt, please check with the SID office or take a look at our website where it does really address that. Because I looked it up and made sure it was there today.
But this urban hunt is strictly bow.
Yes, that's it.
There's no fireworks whatsoever.
No power.
And they have to meet the requirements of Arkansas Game and Fish with that
They
class.
probably have already done it. They do it at Calico Rock a lot of times. They have to go take a class, and they have to shoot pass that class, and they get certified through the Bow Hunting Association. But so is it my understanding that they can hunt just on common ground in Cherokee Village, or can they hunt, like, could they come out here on the golf course and they can
No,
bow
they
hunt? It's common ground only, right? Okay.
And I would just update this page 3 form for 22-23 to cover us through January, and I would roll with the same thing. They even had an attached map.
Yeah.
They kind of showed the areas, so we would really just be following in the order of what's happened in the past. Just because we had not been a part of that before, I wanted to put it on the agenda.
Thank you. With that, let's go ahead and ask Bert. Is here?
So, do we, Ryan, do we need to approve this?
Oh, I wasn't close either.
Okay, I would,
Who are
That's
you?
your second handout that he's got with the pictures of the ham tower. I made sure they had one of each.
I'll read it's on. I don't see any lights. Yeah.
Thank you, Susan. I don't know that we need to approve.
There it goes.
Okay. Again, my name is Bert Floysinger, and I am representing the Cherokee Village Ham Radio Club, and I'm currently serving as the treasurer. We are currently occupying the repeater site that's at the corner of Hiawatha and Skyline. That site was previously being used by the Cherokee Village Fire Department. They relocated, it became available. We were fortunate enough to be able to use it. It's good altitude, had all the amenities that we needed. Because the Cherokee Village Fire Department is no longer there, the city terminated the insurance, which is understandable. Well, we occupied the facility December of 2021, but on April 15th, 22, the tornado, windstorm, hailstorm came through and toppled the tower. And we believe it was actually as a result of guy wires that weren't adequate to hold. We have looked at repair costs, and originally we were quoted between $3,000 and $3,500 to have it re-erected and secured. But as of Saturday night, we've learned that the cost is going to be somewhere between $2,000 and $2,500 to include new guy wires, new security, putting all that in place, which is wonderful. Now, our concerns are that the site doesn't belong to the Cherokee Village Ham Radio Club. So we're hesitant to invest repair funds, making those investments when that property could be withdrawn for other purposes. And who knows what happens in the future. So there's also legal issues in the event there are other accidents. A windstorm comes through, one of the big branches breaks off, goes into the block building, etc. Okay, so what we're doing is we're requesting Sid to make a determination if in fact it could be loaned to us, let's say a 50-year period, it's pulling a number out of the air, and they can transfer if monetary exchange is required, $1. That happens typically in places just to show that there was some kind of transfer. That way we'll have some legal footing. We'd like to have the legal responsibilities defined, so should something happen that we can then pursue insurance to cover. And obviously we would like to ask for some mitigation. So if there's a $2,000 cost to us, maybe there could be a split of half or less or zero. It depends on what the city determines. And I thank you to consider it, to see that we may continue. And right now, we're tentatively scheduled to have the tower re-erected at the end of this month. Thank you.
Bert?
Yes?
So, if we did sign an agreement with you all, would you guys be responsible for the maintenance of the building and all the stuff then, right?
Well, that's what needs to be defined, and it is, and there are ways that we can go through the American Radio Relay League for insurance to help cover it.
That's my concern.
Yeah. But we need to have it spelled out if it is in fact made available for a 50-year period. I hear others, 100-year, whatever it is,
Right.
that we feel comfortable. We put money into it, cut holes in the blocks, put an air conditioner in it. I'm currently painting the interior to give us more visibility. And we're already keeping the grounds up.
I'd like to add too that prior to this, the fire department is who had the insurance that covered it. And I think that initially when it was erected, it was part of maybe their 911 system, some of their ways of transporting their calls. And so with the newer equipment, that wasn't needed anymore.
So
So this,
their radio repeater, so they have coverage throughout the village.
there you go. So this was a good use of the facility. It's not something that Sid has utilized or really had any need for.
If anybody's interested, don't know that Ham Radio is a club of people like-minded that like to promote the technology of radio, but it goes a bit further. They're also training periodically for emergency purposes. We have major hurricanes that come through, earthquakes like in Haiti. You have ham radio operators that operate on 12-volt batteries that can travel halfway across the world to continue communications with first responders, police, etc. So they're
That's
actually
awesome.
performing a service for the local community as well as your hobby.
Susan, anything?
I think it's a good idea, and I think it's a good idea. My concern, just like everybody in this economic age, is how much would it cost us to replace those guy wires, which were inadequate when you installed them, or the fire department installed them, or who installed them, and now,
Well, they were installed back when the tower was originally erected.
so we don't know. So how much is it gonna cost us in 2022 dollars to do that?
Oh, at the end of
Just your best,
the
wow.
last quote that we got from Wallace Tower out of Franklin is they're gonna charge us $2,000 or just above $2,000 to fully erect the tower, new guy wires, securing anchors into the ground, etc.
So the entire cost to fix it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Mr. Cox, can you hear me?
Yes,
So,
I can.
on something like this, is there stuff that's already drawn up that we could make this a quick deal like? I mean, legal
Sure,
wise.
there are a number of ways. What everyone says, without knowing much about the property, what everyone is kind of talking about is some form of a lease agreement. And it can be as complex or as simple as everybody needs it to be. But the bottom line is, with a few adjustments, I think a simple lease agreement, if the board, the commissioners would want to do something like this, we can certainly work with you, get something out to everybody for review and approval.
Okay.
Joe, anything?
I'm sorry?
I asked Mr. Cox if he had anything to add. Grant?
I don't have any problem with them using the property there. I guess my concern would be Sid investing $2,500 into a tower.
Now,
He just wants
we pay
part-
half.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I'm asking that, say, half of $2,000 total cost.
Okay.
Sid would pay $1,000, we'd pay $1,000, but if you don't, obviously, we would end up having to pay all of it.
But in the long
I just
run,
want control of the facility. If they're going to invest the
Right.
money, then, Grant, is there a way that if agreed upon, could we deed the property to the ham radio group instead of doing a lease altogether?
If that would be something that would be interested now, given that we would have to check some of the statutes, just because it is owned by the SID and the
Okay.
transfer, to make sure that, that is, we follow all of the records and things, because sometimes in a real estate transfer like that, there are certain procedures that you have to follow. They may not necessarily apply in this instance,
Okay.
but if you wanted to do that, you certainly could. But one of the things that may also be interesting, that the improvement district may want to consider is if they do make an investment in the tower and split that, you could lease that for a number of years, and at the end of the term, that property reverts back to what would be improvement district property. So you have the tower and be able to do something else with it if you wanted to at the end of the lease term, whether that's 20 years, 50 years, however long that needs to be.
okay. I think it's a good idea.
I think we would reap some benefits from what I'm understanding. So let's say we had a catastrophic tornado, and I'm not buying one. But if that were to happen and we're in that area, it could. We could have an earthquake. These guys could benefit us greatly if our system is shut down. From what I know about ham radio, I
Yep.
think that could, for our safety of our community, they could be of an aid. Not to say we're ever going to need that, but
I
we
agree.
might.
I agree.
Of course, we're scattered everywhere. I'm also a member of the Batesville Club, and we go visit the Walnut Ridge Club, so we're all tied in. And when the repeaters are tied, we talk all the way down to Little Rock, just hopping repeaters, so.
Yeah. And I can see benefits to it.
Bert, I also have an extensive background. My dad was Street 5 LSB, and I have put a lot of antennas up and done a lot of things, and I really love 2 meters. And I've built a lot of CP stuff for people on motorcycles with the antennas, and the timing and the utilization of your tower would be most beneficial in my opinion. So let's take a little vote here, David. You ready to move forward?
I make a motion that we enter into negotiations with the ham club for this property.
Somebody second, please.
Negotiations.
For lease and stuff.
For lease, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'd second that.
We have a motion on the table to consider leasing the property to the Ham Radio Club. Motion by Mr. Engel, seconded by Mr. Cosner.
Can we just amend that motion to go ahead and include paying for half of that? Let's just wrap it all up in one deal.
Okay.
Give them a lease and pay for half the tower and be done with it. Is that okay? Or let's talk about it.
I don't-
This is the first,
I don't think you need to talk about it, just make two motions, yeah.
and let's take the second. Susan, could you make that motion, please?
The motion to mitigate half the cost, our half won't be any more than
$1,000.
$1,000. I make that motion.
I second it.
Motion's been made by Ms. Jett, seconded by Mr. Engel for supporting the Ham Radio Club with a portion of the rebuild for the antenna, up to and including $1,000. Thank you.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good job.
Thank you. And you're invited to club meeting tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, town center.
Yeah. Thank
Thank you, Bert.
Thank you, Bert.
Thank you, Bert. Mr. Harris? Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for allowing me to present this. Keith Harris, I have,
Can you speak a little closer?
I'm Keith Harris, I have a home at 10.02 North Lake Shore Drive, the dead end, about before Los Angeles starts in code there with the dead end of that dead end street. I own a lot, my home is on an adjacent lot that has been turned into one parcel.
Betsy, can Grant hear?
I had met with Mr. Webb in late 2020 about a variance on dock distance from our seawall. On the photos that are in that packet there, we have a rather unusually shallow, I can't explain why that is, but I went, before I came today, I went over there and did some measures, and at 10 foot out from the seawall, we are 12 inches deep. At 20 feet out, we are 28 inches deep. We don't get close to 4 foot depth until we are somewhere between 32 and 36 feet straight out from the wall. I had met with Mr. Webb about the variance to that distance. And in my email, I had misrepresented that he had approved 40 foot. What he had approved was 36, and not until I had my rope today that I was marking these marks on there to do these measurements, and there was a 36 foot mark, because that was what he had verbally approved. Why didn't we do anything? COVID hit. I had numerous dock companies that said we will get to it at some point. They sold, and somebody else owns them, and so we were back at stage one. That's why nothing progressed past that point.
buy this place?
I'm sorry.
How long ago did you buy the place? What year?
February of 2020.
Because when I was looking for a house, I looked at that house, that's one reason I didn't buy it, because I knew it was shallow there.
Yeah, no, it's, you know, it's, we just didn't know how shallow, but it's, and like I say, I can't explain, it's almost like it was filled. But, you know, like I said, there's no alternate to change that. We're not touching the lake bed.
So if you turn your dock, I see you want to run it kind of parallel.
Yes, sir.
So if you turn your dock so it's straight out, and you bring your pontoon in, you still have enough depth for the motor then, won't you, if it's out 32 foot?
I'll just be on the ground with the pontoons.
How deep, well, if you put,
10 feet out, it's 12 inches deep.
how long is your dock going to be?
32. They explained to me 4-foot walk across the front. And then
Yeah.
28 feet, enough room to cover the motor extension.
And then by your drawing, you're saying you're gonna park on the furthest point, or you're gonna pull into the slip?
Pulled into the slip. You know, we would be totally inside. Right now, it's tied to the end of a swim dock. That was already there. And I measured it, I am 32 feet to the outside edge of my pontoon right now, and I have to float it out of there before I can't motor it there. But like I say, it's better toward where we're trying to put the boat dock, just not a lot.
One thing I don't think you mentioned is you own two pieces of property anyway, and this is on the second piece of property that you're trying to put this on, sir?
Like I say, they've been replatted into one. I had storage building that was put onto the lot, and for that to be approved, I needed the two lots to be replatted into one. So it's technically one lot now. My understanding can never be reversed, is what I understood when I did that.
I couldn't find that in the map, and when I was looking at your property, I spent quite a bit of time with my binoculars because I didn't want to be a trespasser. And I like your house, but I don't know the dock. Is something I want to approve that far out, just because of what I can see from the road. That means I still need more research, truthfully, to understand your predicament. Did you intend, by the way, to build a covered dock?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Did you say yes?
I covered it.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be
Yes.
covered, his dock will be covered.
So does that impede the visual view from any of the other properties?
I don't think we're pretty high up that.
He's talking like
It wouldn't be seeing the middle of the cove right there.
But the houses on either side of you would see the top of your covered dock.
There, well, only one, by 10.01,
On the left side?
yes, sir.
Yeah.
But
I know
they're
exactly what
equally
you're talking
as
about.
tall up as I am. Yeah, there's not, there's a grove of cedars right there behind that. They're private grill area, and this roof would extend higher than the visual block that these cedars do already.
Just for me, I can tell you that what I've seen in looking at the previous regulations, there's never been any type of regulation about putting a roof on it. It just said you couldn't have a two-story,
Right.
but there was no regulation about whether a dock would have to have approval for a cover.
And I think what you've just said is part of what some of us are starting to look at dock construction in the future, is that when you there are covered docks out there, and I don't have a big boat, I don't have a pontoon, I don't have any of those big boats. When I go out boat riding and I see those covered docks, I look at the houses and think they've lost their value of having a lake view because they're looking at somebody's dock top, rooftop. And this was shallow when you bought it. It's more shallow this summer because we haven't had but 3/4 of an inch of rain, but it was shallow when you bought it. It was shallow when you bought it. There are more than one house on these lakes that buyer beware, shoulda, but I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I appreciate what you're trying to do.
Is that solid rock there?
The,
The bottom?
no,
No,
but, like I say, I've heard enough that the Omaha issue of someone who put a track hole in.
yeah.
Like I said, I don't know why it was filled or why, or who even filled it. Like I said, the two fellows that built these houses in 2011, there's a lot of interesting.
Yes, sir, there sure is. Yes, sir, there sure is.
We had a fence up the middle of the driveway.
Can I ask Grant a question?
Yeah.
And it may, this is Joe Kaiser, Commissioner, and I just have a question on Sid's responsibility as far as lakefront property. Does Sid have a responsibility to make sure that the depth of that water out in front of property that they buy is a depth adequate to park a boat or to build a dock, or is that completely out of our realm of concern? Because what happens is nature happens, and siltation has happened over the past 50-something years, and there's lots of shallow places in Thunderbird, and it becomes an ecological situation once you begin to start digging and plowing stuff up. But my question is do we have a responsibility to provide that for property owners?
The short answer, Joe, is you don't.
Okay.
The lake that's owned by the improvement district, it's owned by the improvement district sort of for the benefit of all of the improvement district residents, if you will. And your responsibility is to make sure that the recreational aspects and things like that are good.
Okay. Thank you.
Any sort of depth, whether you have responsibility to ensure that there is anything, the improvement district does not have that responsibility.
Mr. Harris, I'd like to get your phone number and I'd like to come over and take a look at it.
It's in the
Are you
email.
around during the
Tell
days
me
or
about it.
anything?
I live in Jonesboro, about an hour and 30 minutes I can be.
Or no? Do you come up on the weekends?
I do.
Okay. I know where you're at. I'd like to go take a
We all
look at
do.
it and see if we can figure something out.
So I have another question. So could you get in your dock, let's say you get the front of your pontoons up on something like could you install a lift, one of these?
No, if it's that
That
shallow.
would-
That was part of the, 24 inches is some floating dock said you need a minimum of 24 inches. We had met with dock builder at Greer's that had presented the table where there's no floats required, that it's on a trolley table system. So all you have to do is enough of the bunks, for the way you describe it, be below it, and then a table would pull it up. That way we're not trying to deal with the float.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Harris,
Thank you.
thank you very much, sir. And if I go over and see you on Saturday, please don't shoot me.
No.
Thank you.
The next one was a little bit, the contract with the American Land Company is no more. That ended June the 30th. Just wanted to mention that to make sure that if, in fact, you have a desire to buy a piece of property, let's say a single piece of property, please check with our SID office, and we have some handouts there that will certainly get you started. Any comments from anybody else on that?
I was going to, I'm going to see if I can put it right now. So just so everyone knows, this is a part of our financials through June 30th, that our total amount of income that we have collected in 2022 from the ALC lot purchase was $129,000, $129,007. So that was our final total at the end of the contract, the money that we've received from the lots sold for this year. I just thought that was good information to share.
Thank you, Betsy. Mr. Kaiser, are you the person who was going to talk about the fishing game?
I'm not aware of that. So I don't know who's got that going, but it's not me.
Well, so on Friday, July 1st, we had a meeting that Mr. Peter Martin put together with us with the Arkansas Game and Fish. It was the officer for Fulton and Sharp County, and because of how Sid works and all that, we had two commissioners who were able to attend, which was David Niebel and Susan Jett. I know that everyone knows that Arkansas Game and Fish came in. There were some conversations that had already circulated about it. I added it onto the agenda because we don't want to keep secrets that we're meeting with somebody and not sharing with y'all. But because we did not get to have all of the commissioners at that meeting, we need an opportunity to independently fill in Ron and Joe and Tim before we really decide what to bring forward as a suggestion or how we would like to move forward. So for transparency reasons, I added that to the agenda because I know some people know that we've already met with them. And I just wanted to to put that out there so that it would be public information. And what we met with them about was prior to the 4th of July, our concerns with how we could police our lakes and what authorities do we have and what to do if we do have an emergency. We were really asking for help. Come and help us, lead us in the right direction, give us some answers on what we need to put in place to be able to enforce the rules. And they also gave us some suggestions and some options and some different things that we can do. So without really giving anyone's opinion or my personal opinion, I think that the other commissioners need to be able to hear all that information. What we did leave with was setting another meeting so that we could meet with the supervisor who was over these two officers. And by that time, we could have a list of questions put together, and it would be able to help us move forward. It was just an introduction, but it is what we're trying to do, is to figure out what we can and can't do, and what's the best way to move forward for the lakes for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Appreciate that. That's new news to me too, because I couldn't attend that meeting. At this point in time, I'd like to entertain the opportunity for our property owners here to address us for 3 minutes. If any of you have any concerns or ideas or positive thoughts that you'd like to bring forward, now's the time.
You just want to line up behind her.
Please state your name and
I'm Mary Ann Queer, I live on Lake Omaha. I just have one question. That's in contain your laughter. On the SID hunting, I was told it's illegal to discharge a firearm within the limits of Cherokee Village. So if you're going to allow hunting on SID property, how is that not a conflict?
It's strictly bow only.
Bow hunting.
No firearms.
I apologize, I'm the one who hunted on private property,
And it's an emergency.
and my BB gun didn't do so good.
It's not private property.
No, that's what I had.
We talked about you.
Thank you, Mary.
I just want to add something the gentleman was talking about with the boat dock and everything, the shallow. And my boat dock is a foot deep.
It's your boat dock what?
It's a foot deep, more than a foot deep.
Mine's sitting down.
Yeah, what I do is trim up the motor
Right.
so I can go in and out of it, you know. I'd love to get mine pushed out too, so be careful what you do. There's a lot of us out there with that shout war.
I got shouted.
We're warned, Peter.
Right.
Philip.
I'm Elton McAnally, and I've talked to Betsy about this before. The lily pads on Lake
And
Cherokee,
who are you?
Elton McAnally, and I'm a property owner since 90. The milfoil, and I don't know if y'all know what milfoil is, that's the growth on the bottom, it's sucking up all the oxygen fish in the soil. The lily pads, they're doing the same thing. You know, I know we sprayed last year, we sprayed one time. And if you don't spray 2 or 3 times, you're not gonna kill the lily pads. I mean, that's just it.
Well, you know, the past,
Yeah,
in the past, it drained her down 10 foot so people can go in and clean them out. We didn't do that last year because we had a whole bunch of people in there. And hopefully we can do it again this year.
it's been 2 years.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get on top.
Like I say, if you don't do something here pretty soon, I'm not gonna have lakefront. So my property taxes will go down. I'll be tickled.
The thing right now is, because it is so low, the snakes and all the nasty critters are up in the pads, and we don't want our people out there maybe getting a chance. But Betsy and I have talked about this, so.
And you know, I was out today in my kayak, and I know fat what, you know, that's okay. But when I put my kayak in and I sit down in it, I'm sitting in mud. So, you know, and it's kind of
dry
and
here.
it really smells really bad when you pick your feet up and put them in the boat. Anyway, I'm just asking.
We're gonna try and get on it for you.
I can tell y'all that last week when I was at the golf course, I met a gentleman, I believe his name is Jeff Klein from AgriTurf. He does a lot of the chemicals for us on the golf course and is very familiar with the village and some of our challenges. He suggested that we look into possibly a granular, that when the water is this low, that we could sprinkle on the edges so that it would kill down into the root. He wasn't able to put together a presentation for us for today's meeting. Again, he said this was something we would do more in the fall time. But we are going to try to look at some alternative options and see what we can do to try to make it better. We're not ignoring you. We're all dealing with the drought, the vegetation. Only thing growing is the stuff in the lake we don't want to grow. Everything else is dead. So we're working on it, and just we'll keep you informed as we keep rolling with it.
I think we got to be careful too on, I'm big on the lake quality and ecological standpoint, and I'm totally against chemicals in lakes because these are not swimming pools, they're lakes.
Right.
And they're going to have grass and they're going to have lily pads. But the fact that the lily pads and the milfoil that is actually a spoontail moss is not depleting the oxygen. Now you can ask any kind of ecological person or Arkansas game fish and they'll tell you that is not the case. So the grass is not killing the fish. It creates more oxygen, not less. So, but I agree, it's a hassle to have the lily pads, I understand that.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Sharon Johns. I live on Thundergarden. I've had a lot of dog damage 4 years in a row.
You've had a lot
I've
of...
had to have it repaired 4 times, 4 years. I just had it repaired. And this year it's much better. We actually could go swimming in the lake. 2 years ago, we almost got drowned. Just being by my dog. I couldn't get back up on my dog. The water was so like an ocean. That's one thing I'm concerned about. And I need a boy by my lake. I don't have one there. So people just turn in there and my dog just goes ding, ding, ding. I was really interested in Mr. Harris's prospect of not having to have the boys under there because, 3 you're out of getting your dock fixed. And
What's your address, Ms. Johns?
16 Winnebago Trace.
Over by me.
Really? And I've got groundhogs, you know what I can do about them?
Trap them. That's what
Gravel?
I trap them and take them out to Omaha. I trap them at Suburban, take them out to Omaha.
Take 'em.
Okay, now, I want to talk about a new swimming pool we're supposed to get, right? We're getting a new swimming pool, right?
That's what we're hoping for, yes.
All of us are older, a lot of us have arthritis and other things. And a lot of communities have swimming pools that are covered so they can be used all year round. So I'm just putting that in there as a suggestion. Years ago, many years ago, I don't know how many, I was very young. So about 40 years ago, they had a cover on Omaha. And that was really nice. You could go there all winter. And, you know, like Batesville had one. You know, Cherokee Village had one.
Do you have the timer going? David, David Nebel, do you have your timer going?
But I checked, and there are 3,000 people connected to water in Cherokee Village. 326 are the townhouses. So if you deduct that, there's only 326 people can have a covered pool. And these other people over here, 3,000 minus the 326, don't have a covered pool. So why couldn't they have one if these 326 people can have one?
Well, man, let's talk about that for just a second. I personally know individuals who live not in the townhouses, but are actually using the covered pool at the townhouses. So if you could check with the president of the association there, if you needed to go, please.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. It costs $40.
Please understand that we would entertain that you would go there
Am I
and.
talking to someone where? With the person?
Yes, ma'am.
That'd be
Yes,
King Ron.
Your point was that you
Where's the
wanted
person?
to.
Yeah, we're talking to
Right here.
commissioners.
Okay, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know I was talking to you. Okay, I'm just suggesting a covered pool would be great for our community. I mean, it's a suggestion. You have to pay $40 a month to go to the covered pool in townhouses. And how much am I already paying? $740. And if I want to go down to Sunburn, I have to pay it again. Does that make sense?
Do you not have an annual gas tank for Thunderbird?
No, sir, I don't, but I
That's
have to
okay.
pay for it.
Well, that is still good.
Okay.
It's only there for 3 months or so, and then you don't have it. You can't go swimming anymore.
And I'm unaware of the need or requirement that we've had in the past for a covered pool in Omaha, so thank you for the education. And I'll take that into consideration.
Well, we probably didn't live here at that time.
10 years now, so it was probably.
Yeah, I lived here since I was 15. So,
But you're just 29.
I'm 75. I'm 75. So that's 60 years, okay? It's a suggestion. It would be nice to have a covered pool to use all year round.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name is Deanna Draper. I'd like to address some concerns. I owned the McCabe House for 18 years. The pool at the McCabe House is 25,000 gallons, and it's in a greenhouse. And I have solar power on it. I sold it. Anyway, the difference in the electric bill between running the heater to keep that pool warm in the winter and not running it. Not running it, I could get it down to like $350 for the month. Running it was $1,200. That's the difference in the electric bill. Besides, about the only way to cover one out here is to put a greenhouse on it, and they're a pretty penny too. So I think it's not feasible price-wise, the long-term maintenance of it, let alone just putting a greenhouse over it.
Thank you very much. Any other property owner comments? If not, I'll entertain the idea that we.
I make a motion, we move to executive session.
Second,
Second.
motion made by Mr. Beagle, seconded by Mr. Kaiser for us to retire to executive session, and we'll be back in 1 minute. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back from executive session, and I'm going to report to you our conversation because of FOA was only about personnel, and our general manager is in the process of hiring one additional person that was approved in the last meeting in June, and we haven't done that yet. So that was our total time in the executive session. So.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
I second it.
Amen. All in favor?
Aye.